The animation opens up to a narrator telling us about a girl named Héra, the only daughter of the mighty King Helm, the king of Rohan. She was born at the expense of her mother's life. Raised by two brothers alongside her warrior king. She is described to be wild and filled with bravery. On this fateful day, she had come with her horse, Ashida, so she could offer lunch to a giant bird, which many feared. Héra is said to have done many great deeds, but none of her tales were sung in ballads. Héra returned home to her castle, where she meets her brother, Hummer, in the stable singing. She tells him about her awesome tale with the giant eagle and how she fed it. Hummer, her brother, who was less impressed, lets her know that some messengers had arrived at the palace from the West March at the order of Lord Freka. He had summoned the council. Just then, Alin, her aunt, walks in. She tells Héra to go change her dress as her adventures made her less of a princess. On their way to the palace, they meet up with their eldest brother Harleth. He condemns Lord Freka, saying he doubts if he still knows how to swing a sword because he has been idle for so long. Olwen lets him know that fat and idle people are the most dangerous at times because it fills them with false courage to do things they can't normally do. At the palace, Héra goes over to meet her cousin, Frlath. He teases her a little, saying she finally looks like a princess. Just as they conversed, Princess Héra talks about the shield maidens who helped Rohan during the time of war, when all the men were slain. She is interrupted by a member of the council, saying it was long past and all the shield maidens were no more. Just as King Helm walks in, he tells his cabinet to cheer up a little and Lord Freka isn't one they should worry about. Just then, Freka, the Dunlending Lord of the West March, walks in with his son, Wulf, who is Hera's childhood friend. After a hostile welcome, he tells the king that he heard a Donger princeling had asked for his daughter's hand in marriage. Although the king tries to wave off the topic, Freka insists that the princess doesn't marry from that tribe. He presents an offer to the king, saying it is time for Rohan to stop being Gondor's lapdog. He tells the king to consider instead a man from West March. Just then, Lord Wulf comes forward to seek Hera's hand in marriage. The king stops the drama, saying he knows Freka's reasons for doing this. He doesn't seek alliance but a throne. Lord Freka challenges Helm, and then the king is left with no choice but to propose a brawl outside the palace. Meanwhile, as everyone leaves the palace to prepare for the fight, Wulf goes over to meet Héra. He confronts her for not giving an answer, saying they were once inseparable. Héra lets him know that she cares about him, but she has no thought of marriage at all. She doesn't want to marry him, or any other man. Wulf, who claims to be in love, becomes devastated as Harleth comes to fetch her. As they begin the fistfight, King Helm unintentionally strikes Freka with a single blow, and he falls to his death. Wulf, on seeing this, becomes furious, and draws his sword to attack the king, but Helm grabs him by the neck. Héra pleads for his life, just as the king lets him go. He banishes Wulf from the land alongside his henchmen. A devastated Wulf vows to take revenge and kill the king. After years had passed, the people still talked about the death of Freka and the manner he died. The fate of Wulf still hovered around Hera's mind as she still thinks of him as the little boy she knew. We see a throwback of Héra and Wulf practicing in the fields. She had seen his temper increase and then strikes him in the eye, leaving a permanent scar. After Wulf was banished, Héra tried to find him all over the land, but she couldn't find any trace leading to him. It was as if he had vanished for good. A new threat arose in Rohan's eastern border. Strange sounds were heard at night, and dead bodies of horses were found in the morning. The king no longer allowed his daughter ride out on her horse alone. During a morning survey, Héra, accompanied by her cousin, Friof, encounters a dead man from Dunland. They stop to analyze his body and figure that it would have been a beast, because of the way he was torn apart. Just then a beast elephant appears and tries to attack the group. Friof heroically tries to save Héra by slicing through the beast's belly, but it doesn't cause any damage to the beast. With his failed attempt, the beast turns to attack him, but Héra saves him by blowing a horn that would distract the beast and focus on her. She lures him into a forest lake where different kinds of creatures live. Knowing the significance of the lake, she throws a spear into the water hoping for a miracle. Just as the beast tries to kill her in the forest, a tree creature attacks the elephant and then swallows it, returning to its normal form. Unfortunately, she meets Turg, one of Freka's generals. He kidnaps her in the bush, saying the new commander of the hill tribes wants to meet her. They bring her to a place called Isengard, where she is locked up with no way to escape. On the other hand, Friof and Olwen had traced Héra to Isengard. They had come to rescue her as they planned their next move. We get to find out that Wulf is the High Lord of the Hill Tribes. They had sworn an oath to him as he plans his revenge. He tells Héra that he will kill her brothers and then her father, so he can finally take the throne of Rohan. He attacks Héra, saying she could have ended this a long time ago. Héra, seeing that Wulf's mind had been clouded with war, promises to be his wife if only he doesn't continue with his plan. Hearing that Héra is still giving conditions despite her circumstances, he becomes furious and tries to kill her, but she is saved by her aunt Olwen. She distracts Wulf with a sword fight as Héra escapes through the window. Olwen follows suit and they escape with Ashida, Hera's horse. Wulf orders his guards to stop them from crossing the gate, but it is too late as Freelof joins in the rescue mission. He is able to defeat all the archers and then they all escape the hill tribe. They go over to King Helm to report their findings. Héra tries to warn the king that Wulf is more than prepared and they do not have the size of his army. Freelof chips in saying the wisest move is to fall back to their stronghold and call for aid from Gondor. Freelof isn't able to convince the king, as the king's right hand, Thorn, promises to defeat Wulf and protect Rohan. The king sees Freelof as a coward for telling him to abandon and doors the palace. He also condemns him for not protecting his daughter and then casts him out, saying he doesn't need his faithless hand in battle. Wulf and his men invade Rohan as they prepare to enter Andoras for battle. On the other hand, Héra tries to join in the fight, but the king doesn't allow it. Herlath comes to tell his father that Wulf's army isn't resting or setting up camp as predicted. They are advancing to Andoras and might probably attack at night. Héra goes to bid her brothers farewell, as they prepare to go engage in war. Hammer gives her his harp, and tells her to keep it safe for him. While Héra doubts if they will find victory, Olwen comes to reassure her that her father is no ordinary man, and it will take more than just Wulf to bring him down. She lets her know that the blood of the ancient runs down his veins. When Leif the scroll reader comes in with so many scrolls meant for the king, Héra sees a scroll with a particular seal she had seen during her kidnap in the hill tribes. Just then she realizes that Thorn had joined leagues with Wulf and is planning to betray her father. Realizing that Andoras is exposed, Héra tries to evacuate everyone. The king and his guards go into battle as they engage in a bloody fight with Wulf's men. On the other hand, Héra is attacked by Thorn as she tries to help her kingdom. However, she manages to defeat him. During the course of battle, the king doesn't find Wulf and figures that something is off. He draws the line and orders that his men halt. Just then they see a horde of men marching towards Andoras with the beast elephants. Seeing that the town is exposed, King Helm urges his man to retreat and save Andoras. They realize that Thorn had betrayed them, exploiting their weakness. Héra on the other hand manages to save the villagers before they can set Andoras on fire. Meanwhile, Harleth, who couldn't watch his village burn, becomes furious and heroically attacks Wulf's men. He manages to stop an epic fatality before he has been shot by an arrow. Harleth falls to his death, just as Héra watches in agony. The king, on the other hand, is injured severely. Héra and Hammer quickly take him with the villagers as they flee Andoras. They proceed to the town's stronghold, Hornburg. There they won't be touched if the city gates are locked. On their way, Hammer's horse fails him as she becomes tired. With enemies at his back, Hammer knows his time has come. On getting to their safe haven, Héra notices that Hammer is missing, as she tries to alert everyone. Wulf appears with Hammer captured. The king shakingly pleads that his son's life be spared and he will surrender. Turg sees this as a good idea and tells Wulf to do what the king said, because if they retreat behind the walls, it would be difficult to siege them. Wulf, drenched in revenge, slices Hammer's head. He vows to make the king's life miserable before he finally takes him down. Héra screams in agony as she orders that the city gate be closed. Wulf orders that they surround the town, Hornburg, and siege it at the right time, despite winter warnings from Turg. Meanwhile, Freelof, who is held up in another part of Rohan, doesn't know the fate of his kindred. Wulf begins his administration. He orders Turg to summon the lords of Andoras so they could swear their loyalty to him. Meanwhile, Héra goes on to look for supplies to keep the people positive. She finds a dress and a hallkeeper who warns her not to wear it because it could bring a bad omen. The hallkeeper complains that supplies are running terribly low and she has never seen anything like this. Héra goes on to hear the councils complaining about how they aren't going to get any help. They are afraid that surrender is no longer an option as Wulf will slaughter them all. Héra calms them down, saying they shouldn't succumb to defeat as they would all find a way together. But the council aren't very convinced. Just then Wulf begins to build a siege tower to take down the mighty walls. The people could only wait and hope for a miracle to happen. On the other hand, the king, who is placed on treatment, isn't responding well to it. Although his body is beginning to heal up, he still hasn't shown any signs of waking up. Olwen fears that his mind has been broken. Héra sat beside her father as she prayed for his recovery. The king, wounded and grief-stricken, sneaks out of the walls to terrorize Wulf's men. He tears them apart with his bare hands, as they all run for their lives. They assume him to be a beast and not a living being. Fear took over them as whispers spread that he was no longer human and no weapon could smite him. Wulf returned to the back, only to see almost all his men dead, his plans in disarray. The news about the king becoming a ghost had spread around the camp, as Wulf's men were completely terrified. Héra discovers a secret passage that leads her directly to her father. She comes across some monsters who are taking rings from the dead. They proceed to attack her, referring to her as fresh meat. But Helm comes to the rescue. He takes the monsters out as Héra kills the master beast with a long rod. Helm apologizes to Héra for underestimating her and letting the family down. He hugs his daughter one last time before Wulf finds them. They proceed to run away towards the gate and ask that the gates be open. Just as Olwen and some group of guards try to open the gate in time for the king and Héra to enter, the gate gets stuck. With all his might and strength, Helm manages to open the gate a little, just enough for Héra to fit in. He gives her his blessings as the king decides to stay back and fight for Rohan. In the freezing cold, he takes down Wulf's men, as they come on towards him increasing in number. He died fighting outside the gates of Hornburg, frozen, standing up, with his knees unbent. The people mourn his death as General Turg advises Wulf to retreat, saying he has won and there is nothing to conquer again, except for starving refugees. Wulf declines, saying, he can't show weakness and he won't leave now. Vengeance is all he has and he must carry out his mission to the end. With no chance of winning this battle, Héra gives up. She ticks surrender as her only option. However, Olwen motivates her not to just give up and she should keep fighting till she finds a solution, because everyone looks up to her now. Just then, Héra sees the giant eagle and immediately she thinks of a possible answer. Although it would be risky, she hopes it would work. She takes her father's armor as she climbs to the eagle's nest, asking for help. Meanwhile, there is a commotion at Wulf's camp. They all want their payment as they seem tired of moving on with plans. Seeing this, Wulf tricks them into believing that there is so much gold in Hornburg, and if only they could siege the walls, they would be rich forever. The giant eagle takes the king's armor to free Wulf, as he finally finds out that Héra needs his help. On the day of the battle, Wulf lowers his siege tower as he prepares to evade Hornburg. On the contrary, Héra had placed Leif the palace reader, in charge of leading the people of Rohan through a secret passage. She wears the dress of the bride, as she proceeds to distract Wulf so her people can escape. Wulf, seeing her in a bride's gown, mockingly tells her that he isn't going to marry her now and that option has been long gone. She tells him that she isn't interested in marrying no man. Instead, she challenges him to a combat, saying if she wins, he will surrender and let her people go. Seeing no reason to accept the challenge, he declines at first. Héra goes on deeper to tell him she is offering him a chance to prove himself worthy of the throne, as she is the last true bloodline of Rohan. Noticing that Wulf's ego is hurt, Turg warns him not to take the bait, but instead, his ego won't allow it, and he accepts her challenge. During a fierce sword fight, Héra defeats him and tells him to stay solid on his words by calling off his men. Turg, who had warned him not to accept the challenge, agrees with Héra, but he murders Turg, saying he isn't a man of honor, and his words mean nothing. He orders his men to attack, as they proceed to evade Hornburg. Just then, Friolaf arrives with his army of soldiers. He uses Helm's armor and horn to scare the men fighting for Wulf. They all assume Helm has come back to haunt them, so everyone flees for their lives. Wulf, seeing his men retreating, kneels before Héra. He tries to trick her into believing he has become repentant. Just as Héra lowers her guard, Wulf draws his sword to stab her, but he misses. She manages to evade all his attacks and then, with the help of Olwen's shield, she chokes him aggressively till he dies. With Wulf dead, Héra tells Friolaf to call off the attack and let the men go back home to their families in peace. After the horrific war, the people of Rohan began rebuilding, and Friolaf is named the 10th king of Rohan. Helm, on the other hand, uninterested in the crown, vows to be loyal to Friolaf anytime he needs her. She sets out on her adventure to meet with Gandalf, a wizard who has questions concerning the monsters she saw stealing rings. Olwen vows to be at her service and follow her wherever she goes. The narrator tells us that Héra became wild and free till the end of her days. The end. If you love animation movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.